let's see, what's a special key to move and resize windows is Alt. So this is something that's actually useful. It says, it's commonly useful. It says, while the special key is pressed, windows can be dragged with the left mouse button and resized with the right mouse button. So if you ever have a situation where a software that you have open, maybe your monitor doesn't display as high a resolution as their default settings or something, or whatever the case. But if you ever have a situation where, say, your window, that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I wanted to do either. But like, if your window is off the screen, see for example off the side here, but say it was, for example, too big to fit on your within your monitor, or if sometimes you'll see that in like where I commonly see it is in certain applications that have their settings window or something like that. It has a lot of settings in there, and it will have sort of a minimum height to it, minimum height level to it, to where you can't make it any shorter than a specific height. And when that happens, sometimes it will be too large to fit on the view here. Especially with using the text scaling size like I do, it tends to make certain things not fit. It's not very common, but occasionally it will cause an issue where, especially if I have it scaled up like really high, it will make it so certain windows don't fit the size of my screen basically anymore. So anyway, the long story short there, what you do by default here is you can hold the Alt key in Linux, and you'll see as you click, the little cursor changes from an arrow to like a little hand. And now I'm holding down Alt, and I'm holding down the left mouse button, and I'm moving. And this is what it's talking about, is you can always drag to move and resize windows. So you can always hold the Alt key and move a window, even if, for example, I'll just show you like this, even if it's off the screen and you say, well, hey, I can't just left click and drag this because it's too far off the screen now. How do I move this window? I need to move it back down. Well, then what you do is you hold the Alt key and then click inside that window somewhere, and then as you see, it changes to a little hand cursor, and then that lets you drag that window, move that window from wherever it happens to be, wherever you happen to be able to access it from. So even if even if you only have it way up here and you can't really do anything with it, it's like, what do I do with this? Well, you can hold Alt and drag with the left mouse button, and you can put that window viewable, or whatever, or you can get it up to the title bar again so you can close it, or whatever you need to do. So that is something useful to have in a pinch, especially if you are like me and you like to modify the scale of your fonts and things like that. And so the next thing, it says Windows drag resize threshold in pixels. I guess that's just how far it moves generally as you go to drag it. I'm not too sure. I haven't really messed with that one. It says edge resistance with other windows and monitor boundaries. So by default that's checked on, and I'll show you what that means is like it won't instantly go over to the side. So like if you're as you move a window to the sides or the top or the bottom, whatever, it will kind of stop a little bit. And I'll try to do this smoothly so you can see smoothly, and then it just kind of, see how it kind of like staggers a little bit, especially when I get to the edge there. It's like it pauses for a moment on the edge, so it tries to kind of like stop here, like, oh, this is as far as you probably want to move this, is right to the edge. But if you want, you can keep moving it over further till it goes off this visible screen. But that's what it's talking about, is the resistance. Is it just kind of pauses briefly, and it just kind of says like, okay, well, you probably want to stop here, right? Because you're at the edge of the screen now. And it will do that. You can see it even does that for the panel a little bit, like, oh, it kind of stops and then it pushes down further. And if you have multiple windows going, it will do the same thing. As you bump into one window or another, it will try to briefly put a little bit of pause there in your movement to make it so you've reached the edge of the screen. Now if I toggle that off and I go in It has no such resistance whatsoever. It just keeps on going right off there. So if you don't like that behavior and you prefer the flexibility of just being able to drag it like really easy without the little, sticking part like it did before, it'll just do that, more manually there, and you won't have to have that. But Alt Tab is just like in Windows. If you hold the Alt key and you hit Tab, I'll just show you here, for example. It actually toggles between your open windows and programs and things like that. And this is just an easy way to, especially if you have full screen applications that are going, it's an easy way to toggle between something that's full screen and then, say back to your desktop or some other screen that's not full screen, some other software that's not in full screen mode, whatever. So you can change the style of how that looks like. It says the default style is icons and thumbnails. You can make it thumbnails only, icons in window preview only with no icons, and then 2 3D settings there. So there's lots you can actually choose from. I'll just do, for example, we'll just do window preview, no icons. Let's just see what that looks like if I do Alt Tab. And now you can see it's previewing the actual windows themselves instead of the icon. So it's like, oh, you want to switch to this? Well, there you go. So it actually shows you the window itself that you'd be switching to. And then, if you just wanted the thumbnails or you just wanted the icons, you can do that. I usually just leave that by default to its default settings because I'm not too particular, but you can customize it how you prefer. It says display the Alt Tab switcher on the primary monitor instead of the active one. So that's off by default. So by default, it'll be whatever you're actively, whatever monitor you're actively utilizing for multiple monitor setups. And it says minimize windows to the end of the Alt Tab switcher. So yeah, if you wanted to distinguish between, maybe you have like 5 or 6 things going, and 2 of them you don't want, to be the primary focus in the Alt Tab switching, interface. Then you would maybe minimize those versus still keeping them open in the background, and then you can turn this on, and those minimized ones would appear at the end of the list because they would be less prominently featured, I guess you could say, and that would be maybe a way to help you organize the Alt Tab a little bit. It says the delay before displaying the Alt Tab switcher in milliseconds, and so if you want to modify that to either a shorter delay or a longer one, you can with the box there. And it says show windows from all workspaces. By default, that's off. If you wanted it to be on, you can toggle it there. If you're a person that uses multiple workspaces frequently, and you want to be able to easily switch between them, certain software, or regardless of what workspace it's on, you can turn that on and it will give all the options from the Alt Tab. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn even more, you can find my books at bookstoread.com/Jonathan. That's books, the number 2, read.com/JONATHAN.